guys, I feel like it's going to be an early start to the summer. I think next week it's supposed to rain, and I think towards the end of next week it's going to get back up into the mid to high 40s. But nonetheless, I hope you guys are having a productive week, whether it's work, personal, whatever the case is. I hope everything is moving along for y'all. But this week was pretty chill. Most importantly, all the snow is starting to melt. So, guys, you heard me say this before. I mean, I like extreme weather because that's usually when, us HVAC companies, that's when we're going to make the bulk of our money, when it's, real cold or real hot. But the only issue is, like, especially in inner cities, for you guys to work in, like, the inner cities of New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, whenever it snows real bad, like, they don't really like to plow these side streets, and, like, it becomes a lot more difficult to, like, move around, especially, like, to and from service calls. But, I mean, guys, I'm already used to it, but I know you guys feel my pain for you guys that have to go to these no heat calls, like I said, on these side streets in Philadelphia. I mean, I don't think these plowing companies really care. I don't know what the agreement is between the plowing companies and the streets department, but I know they really don't like to plow too often. But guys, like, listen to this. Like, the topic of today is coincidences. The topic was going to be something else, but like I did my 80 minutes. I think it was like 85 minutes on the treadmill, and like I was thinking about like coincidences. Like, guys, I touched on this topic, in previous videos, but I mean, in regards to coincidences, like, do you really believe, I'm going to wait until more people get in here, but like, do you guys really believe that random things happen for a reason, or like random things happen for no reason? Or do you believe that every single thing that happens, regardless if you can understand it or not, do you believe that everything has a purpose? And guys, like, and I'm going to tell you exactly like some shit that I thought about, like a bunch of random things at the time I didn't understand, but as I got older, I really understood it. And like, even if I didn't agree with it, like at the time, guys, those random occurrences that happen, like I said, for instance, in trade school, the deficits, all the sacrifices, everything I was doing, but I really couldn't grasp. Like, I feel like all that played a huge part in like my way of thinking and how I navigate through problems and everything I go through now. But for you guys just getting in here, like I said, guys, we're going to dive deep into this topic, man. Like, this had to be like 2 weeks ago. I forgot the title of it, but I basically talked about what's this, natural selection, guys. Like, I dive deep into a bunch of random topics, guys, but like most of this shit ties in together one way or another. But in regards to coincidences, guys, I got to take this back. I'm taking this back for you guys just getting in here. Welcome along. I'm happy y'all made it to see another Friday. Welcome aboard. But guys, we got to get into this. Like, coincidences, once again, guys, like how I thought now, in my early 20s, and I'm going to make, this is another topic too. It might not be a live video, guys, but at some point this year, I'm going to make a part two. Technically, I already made my advice for 20-year-olds. I'm going to make one for 30-year-olds because, like, I'm already 3 years into my 30s, and like I said, guys, there's a bunch of shit that I had to fix as far as mentally of like how I thought in my 20s. Now, like I said, I kind of like see the end goal to a lot of things I thought was right in my 20s, but like, I tried a bunch of things, but like now I'm able to self-correct. I don't feel like imprisoned in my own way of thinking like I thought, in my 20s. Like, but guys, eventually at some point this year, I'm gonna make it might not be a live video, but this video is gonna be a lengthy video. I'm gonna make my advice for 30-year-olds, and like I said, guys, like, 30s is pretty much the pinnacle of your life, because like, I'll tell you like this, I feel like, especially with me, once you're in your 20s, you feel like you got an idea of like how the world works, but like, reality is going to hit, and like the things you thought how it's supposed to go, there's no straight line to none of this shit. And I told y'all, like, there's an old saying that goes, if you want to hear a guy laugh, you tell him your plans, like, because like I said, nothing ever goes according to plan. But that's the purpose of your 30s, really, is to circumvent. And like I said, you still want to have lofty goals, lofty expectations, but like, you're going to have a lot more wisdom and a lot more wherewithal in your 30s than you do your 20s. But guys, I say that to say this: the end goal of your 30s is to make your 40s a whole lot more comfortable than your 20s were. Because 20s, guys, like, and like I said, unless you're the damn 0.001 percentile, like I said, like, if you got life figured out already in your 20s, I mean, hats off to you. But life goes on whether you agree with it or not. But like, the point is, like, you want your 40s to be full of the experiences you thought of in your 20s, but most importantly, like you have the practicalities of what you're going through now. If you guys are in your 30s, like you got the practicality of what's going on in your 30s, but you amalgamate, you put all that together, your wisdom and your experiences, and like I said, it should end in peace and happiness. Like whether that's family, whether that's financially, whether that's whatever your goals are, guys. Like you should always. I'm assuming once you guys hit your 40s, like it should be a good thing to look back and like say be happy with what you did. It shouldn't be like you being stuck in your own way of thinking, And like I said, we all know someone that's like I said 40 or 50 years old that still think like a 20-year-old, but maybe like I said they couldn't face the reality, and now they're stuck in the only happy part of their life, which is what well, some people could have been their earlier years. But I mean, like I said, guys, like happiness doesn't go away; it just transfers from one thing to another. So you guys heard me say that before. Like the stuff that made me happy in my 20s doesn't really excite me now, and that doesn't mean that, like I said, I'm going through some type of depression bout. But the point is, like, I don't do the same shit I did in my 20s. So like, and like guys, like not like I said, I can go off on a tangent. You already know how I roll, but like just to give y'all a sneak peek or some shit I'm gonna talk about, like, it got to a point, guys, multiple times in my 20s. And once again, for you guys that don't know, like I said, I started off in the trade 17, 18. I mean, I started off, like I said, working. Like that was the way of life. But like, I mean, there was a bunch of pros and cons. One of the pros is, like I said, financial. I didn't have to worry about things as much as other people had to worry about. But at some point, guys, like before I knew, how, the XYZs work in business, like I thought to myself, I'm like, yo, like this is just my adolescent mind. I'm like, yo, like, damn, if I can get like $15,000 to $20,000 at once, I think I might be good. I think I might have this shit figured out. And guys, like, it took me, like I said, getting to that amount. Like I said, this is no slight towards someone that's struggling financially. Like I said, it is what it is. You at where you at, and hopefully you can get through to the next level. But like, the point is, like, my relationship with money changed because like I thought it would be an end goal to it, to a point where, what, man, if I can have $10,000 at once, I should be good. And like, little did I know, like I said, it costs money to make money, and like I said, cost of goods sold, taxes and shit like that. It's not really, it doesn't really feel the same as what I thought it would feel. So like, guys, once again, that's the point of practicality. Practicality is like what you thought, how you thought things should go. Like I said, like, that's the purpose of life, is figuring shit out. You apply it, and like I said, if it doesn't work, then you already know what you got to do. You got to make another move. You don't just stay stuck there, in your head, and like I said, scared to make other moves. Like, no, you got to get your ass off the couch, or and jump back on the stage and figure it out again. But guys, like I said, that's a sneak peek into something I'm going to put together. It's probably going to take some time, but I'm going to put together, like I said, a lengthy video about all the shit I thought about in my 20s versus, like I said, my early approach into my 30s. And like, I hope you guys are taking the time, out of what you're doing, just to kind of like self-reflect and making sure you guys are taking whatever time you got, just to get better, And this doesn't really pertain to HVAC. Like, this can be with anything. You feel what I'm saying? Like, this is just everything all comes together one way or another. Like, and I told y'all this in previous videos. Like, I mean, I don't know too many people, like you said, that that spends all this time working out and getting healthy, and then it doesn't translate to another area of their life. Nah, the same discipline you use to make money, or the same discipline you use to get healthy, apply that to other areas. It doesn't go away. No one can take, like I said, no one can take the grind away of what it took for you to get to certain levels. You get what I'm saying? And like, that's the beauty of, once again, the beauty of experience and figuring shit out. But guys, with that being said, let's get into the topic. But let me look at the comments here. Y'all just talking some nonsense here. But let's get into the topic here. The topic I'm getting into here is coincidences. Now, like I said, guys, like growing up, I was just, like I said, just like anyone else, like just figuring things out. But in regards to, coincidences, like I said, I don't know what you guys believe in spiritually. If you think that, there's an end goal to this, or if you don't believe there's an end goal, I do think that at some point, I mentioned this in previous videos, like I do think that like a bunch of random shit does happen each and every day. Either you're a part of it or you're not. That doesn't take away from the fact that random things does happen. But in regards to coincidences, like I'm talking to your own personal lives, like the things you heard, like, when you're 5 years old, like the things you heard when you're like 10 years old, most of the time, like I said, when you're at that age, if it's happening at that moment, you might not understand. But eventually, as you get older, you're going to think back and say, yo, like, I remember such and such did tell me about this, what to do, what not to do. But like, I don't know if, like I said, like, I don't know if coincidences are random, or if or if it's safe to say that, like I said, every single thing that happens, I'm saying, and throughout life, since you was born till now, I don't know if everything that happened in life, even if you understand it, once again, if you understand it or if you don't, that doesn't matter. But every single thing that's happening now has a purpose. But whose purpose is meant for, that's kind of like up to the future to decide. But like, guys, like I used to believe that random shit is happening. I don't really care as long as it has as long as it has nothing to do with what I'm doing. But guys, as I got older, I just started thinking, I'm like, yo, like, for you conscious individuals out there, like, you start to understand that random things do happen, but a lot of things, like, if the same thing is happening over and over again, like if you're having the same dream about something, like eventually, all right, you gotta step back and say, wait a minute, like, what is this trying to tell me? Like, what am I, like, what's going on here? And like, same thing with, if someone's telling you the same thing, the old saying is true. If you hear the same thing too many times, like I said, from different people, but if you hear the exact same thing, then like chances are it might be true. And like, I mean, it's on you to, like I said, to discern, what to take from what you're hearing. But guys, like I said, and I'm gonna give you guys some real life examples, man. Like, and this is some real deal stuff. Like, growing up, once again, for you guys that didn't see my intro story, growing up in Jersey, like I said, it was just a day by day type of grind, But like, I really didn't develop, my how can I put this? My work ethic, like that's a very important, like I said, aspect of what got me into, like I said, progressing from A to B. Is like I said, guys, like I really don't wait until shit hits the fan for me to like know I have to stay on my grind. Get on your grind and stay on your grind. Like, that's two totally different things. One is like motivation. If you see something that gets you pumped up, and then two is like discipline. That's the boring shit. That's the shit that, like I said, is not fancy. You can't glorify it. It's just it's either in you or it's not. It's if you don't have that desire to keep going, then like you gotta wait until shit hits the fan and like say you lose everything for you to start all over again. Like, and guys, like growing up, man, like I seen so many people fuck up, and like everything I'm telling you guys is tying into like why I believe I don't think random things happen. I think like even if you walk across the street, you hear two people yelling at each other, and then one person says some like very profound shit, and like you may still keep it moving, but like if what he or she said, if it stuck with you, you're gonna be like, what the fuck? Like, yo, that shit makes sense. And like, I don't know if it was meant for you to be there at that moment to hear those two people arguing or what, but like, and that's the purpose of, like I said, I feel like random things, like I said, I feel like everything that you may hear or everything she or he may hear, eventually you put all that together and you that goes into your intellectual mind, like, and hopefully, like I said, this turns into a good thing. I'm not saying you're gonna learn life values from, like I said, all criminals and like negativity. Eventually you got to balance good with bad. But guys, like, back to what I was saying here, man, like with the coincidences, like growing up, man, like I said, like I really didn't have like role models and shit like that, because I was already, I'm not gonna say indoctrinated, but like I said, guys, like that day-to-day grind of like, paycheck to paycheck shit, that's the only life I knew. Like, I mean, of course, like I said, guys, like, and I don't blame anyone that was around, but like at the end of the day, guys, when you're young, I'm talking like pre-teenager, if you're like, a kid going outside to play, like you don't really care about money. Like, I didn't really know what, like I said, it is what it is. Most of my financial knowledge came like as I got older, but like, my pre-adolescence years, I'm like, yo, like, I don't really care. I'm just going out to have fun. And like I said, that's pretty much it. But like eventually, as I started understanding different dynamics, like I'm like, all right, well, his mom and dad, they got a nice car, or he's doing this. But it didn't really register. I'm seeing a bunch of different things, but I'm like, all right, well, maybe they got more money, but I didn't really care. But like as I got older, and of course, going to school, hearing different things, seeing different things, I'm like, all right, well, now I understand that, like, all right, there's haves and then there's have-nots. And I'm like, okay, well, once again, I'm just still seeing it. As a young kid, you're a victim of what you see. You're still impressionable, like you're still just a sponge. And like as I got older, that's when I started to question things. Like, hey, I'm talking like teens. Okay, well, now how come he has nice clothes? How come she doesn't have nice clothes? How come this? How come this? And then, guys, literally, like I said, like that, I got introduced to how the world works at an early age, and like that's when the game got broken down to me. Like, hey, at the end of the day, like I said, you have to be grateful, and all that shit as far as where you came from. But, being grateful is one thing, but like I said, like having goals and all that other shit, like, and I'm going to get into that in a second, guys. Like, by me asking a bunch of questions, understanding people's different people's dynamics. Of course, when you're young, they're going to teach you kind of like the, the watered down version. But like I said, guys, as I got from middle school to high school, now I'm like, all right, well, I'm starting to understand, like, all right, well, your mom or your dad may give you an allowance, yada, yada. But as you get older, you're going to want new shit. You're going to want different things. And I mean, for what reasons, it doesn't really matter. But like, you may want a new pair of Nikes, a new pair of Jordans. You may want, new clothes, like whatever the case is. But as you get older, your wants are going to change. Remember, I told you guys, the things you wanted at 5 years old, you may not want at 15 years old. Now, like I said, you 15 years old, you may want to get your ears pierced. You may want to get that fade you seen on TV. You get what I'm saying? And I feel like that's human nature to evolve. Hopefully you're evolving for the right things. You're not devolving and turning back into, like I said, a fucking idiot. But if, that's human nature to evolve. And like I said, if you see things the same way, I mean, I can't be mad at you, but eventually, it's okay, like I said, to not really feel the same way about things after a while, And like I said, if you don't feel the same way, you have to take the onus on yourself to learn more. And like I said, once again, happiness doesn't stay always in the same place. Happiness could move from one thing to another, but everything is relative to, like I said, your way of thinking and, like I said, how you feel about it. But guys, with that being said, like, back to my adolescence, I'm saying like pre-18, I'm starting to realize, like, I want different shit. Like, now I'm just not satisfied with just going with the flow. And like, once again, that's when I started to realize the haves from the have-nots. And like, guys, I'm telling you, like, I started looking at this, and I'm like, I'm looking at household dynamics, different races and different creeds. I'm like, all right, now I see how the game is. And I'm like, and I'm not saying just for my household. I've seen people just hate people with money just because they thought that they got it by ill-gotten means. Like, I heard it all, like, as far as like, and it got to a point where it almost brainwashed me into thinking, like, I'm saying pre-18, like, if I see someone with a nice car, if I see someone that's like well off, I was already conditioned into thinking that, like, damn, he might be a criminal, he might be illegal. And like, I don't know where that shit came from, guys. It couldn't be the furthest thing from the truth. But I'm saying, in regards to, once again, like, under a certain age, you're just a victim to what you're around. But as you get older, you're going to want to be around different things. But, and like I said, it's easier now to do it, like I said, since now you guys have more access to different perspectives. But, as I got older, I'm like, like, I want more out of life than like what I'm seeing. And I'm like, once again, this would have been easier if I would have had someone, like, say, hold me by the hand, hypothetically speaking, and saying, yeah, this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do. I mean, guys, like, you have to, like I said, you got to get it how you get it. But like, once I knew that, like, where I was, that shit wasn't it. Like, all this happened, pre-trade school, like, before I even know what I wanted to do. And I told you guys this in previous videos, like, before I knew what I wanted to do, I knew what I didn't want it to do. I repeat, I knew what I didn't want to do first. I knew I didn't want to do dumb shit, like I said, still in doing illegal stuff, because like, eventually all that catches up to you guys. And like, and I everything I'm telling you guys, I mentioned this in different GMC talks, but like, it's a messed up feeling. Like I said, I'm saying pre-18, you guys growing up, for you guys to play basketball, you back in the day, you playing basketball with your boys, and like, like I say, everybody's cool, everybody's chilling, but like, some dudes are out there, they're on the street, they doing their thing, but you notice something. Everybody's cool guys, but you stop seeing the same people after like 2 years. And then it got to a point where I'm like, you know what? Damn, like, what happened to such and such? Is he still around? Oh no, you didn't hear what happened? Such and such got killed, or such and such got locked up. Now he's doing 25, he's doing 30 years. And I'm like, like, the first time I heard it, I didn't really care. I'm like, damn, like, shit happens. But more you start hearing it, I'm like, like, I'm computing everything I'm hearing. I'm like, like, damn, like, this is like the end goal to all this shit. Like, you may have a good summer, you might have 2 good summers, but you're going to end up giving all that time back and giving that money back when, like I said, either you get backdoored or you get killed, or, like, I'm like, damn, like, and I knew that, like I said, as an early teen, like, seeing it, I'm like, like, damn. But then I'm like, you know what, man, I'm like, if I don't make a decision for myself as far as what I want to do, look at what's around me. Like, I'm not trying to be, like, saying, like, once again, guys, I'm not like really a follower. I don't like doing shit just because someone else told me I should, or they think I should. Like, and once again, that's my personality. I don't know how you guys are made up, what you believe in, but like, I was around, like, saying negative people, but I was always my own person, you feel me? And like, I know I'm not the only person I was like that. That was just the time and the era I grew up in. We jumped off the porch for you early 90s babies, you jumped off the porch early 2000s. I mean, life was already happening, you either got to adjust and learn on the fly, or you want to sit back and, like I said, complain. But like, guys, I simply didn't have that option of just complaining and, like I said, blaming everybody around me, because that shit doesn't work, like, and like I said, think about it, for the kid, I mean, I hate to say it, guys, like, for the kids that thought like that growing up, if you didn't make a choice, now, you know what those people are now? They're online crying and, like I said, begging people to feel sorry for them. Like, I'm not, we all going through shit. It's not like, you know, and like I said, like, and like I was telling some guys at the gym about this, like, I mean, life is supposed to be hard, but it's just like, I mean, the point is, like, you know, some people are less fortunate than others. I'm not saying everybody should operate at the same level, but like, I mean, life in general, this shit is not supposed to be easy. And like, I feel sorry for the kids that got brainwashed by the people around them, like thinking that things are going to be sweet. And like I said, and people owe you everything just because you try and be nice to them. Fuck that. Like, you know, I feel like everybody's order of business is to get themselves over the hump first. Because if that person themselves is not thriving, you know, like who's gonna kill themselves just to sacrifice someone else? I'm saying, like, from a financial standpoint, like, you know, make sure your backyard is clean before you clean someone. You get what I'm saying, guys? Like, I mean, but it's just like I said, guys, I got introduced to the world and how things work very young, or at a fairly young age, like I said, 16, 17. And, you know, by me working those part-time jobs, guys, I knew that, you know, I'm like, you know what, man, like I'm searching for fulfillment, but I know, like, this shit doesn't really feel like, I don't feel the spark of, like I said, me staying here for the next 5 to 6 years or even longer. And I'm like, you know what, these part-time jobs, like I had 2 part-time jobs, guys, like, and I got fired from both of them. This is when I was like 16, 17. Well, this is actually, I graduated high school at 17. I took a year off from high school and I tried working 2 part-time jobs. I had one part-time job at AMC at the movie theater, and I had another part-time job at Sears up at the mall. And guys, like, I make a long story short, once again, coincidences. I never got fired from any job in my life, but that 2-year stretch of, you know, after I got out of high school, I tried AMC. Like, I was there for like probably maybe 4 or 5 months. They fired me for not washing glasses. Like, I didn't know where the fucking glasses was for them to expect me to wash it. But like, I mean, they fired me for a stupid reason there. Sears, I think, like, I felt the 90-day probationary period or something like that. Like, I think I was restocking shelves, like, in the back or something like that. It was like some stupid shit. But like, I mean, guys, at that point of me taking all those part-time jobs, I thought the whole time, guys, like, as long as you got more than one job, you can keep your head above water. And like, maybe that's something I seen growing up, or maybe that's something someone taught me growing up. But like, instinctively, I'm like, yo, I can probably make it without education. I can probably just work. And like, I'm like, eventually, guys, that shit caught up to me. And like, once I got fired from those 2 jobs, and I mean, I didn't really see a long-term outcome with those 2 jobs, but I just thought, like, you know what, you know, one job I'm making X amount, and job 2 making X amount. If I can just stay on the grind, I can get it that way. But then I'm like, yo, like, at 17 years old, guys, I'm like, yo, I'm hustling backwards. I'm like, wait a minute, these 2 part-time jobs, I'm like, I need an education. I need something that's going to demand some type of money besides like these part-time jobs. And I'm like, that, you know, and for you guys, like I said, seeing the intro video, that is what led to me, like I said, doing my thing with the trade school. And I mean, and once again, guys, like I said, you know, what motivated me more is, like I said, knowing that I didn't have a safety net. You know, it's really no, and I mean, I'm not saying you guys, you know, I want you guys to, like I said, you know, make sure you know your expected outcomes, know the pros and cons of every decision you make. I want you guys to be vigilant. Like, just don't gamble your whole life away and game all your time away. But I mean, some of this shit that's gonna happen, guys, I'm saying, like, from an adversity standpoint, I mean, you're not really gonna have people that's gonna save you. You get what I'm saying? Like, you gotta be there for yourself. But like, you know, what motivated me, guys, I'm telling you, what motivated me is me knowing that, like I said, this shit doesn't work out. What do I have to fall back on? And I'm like, yo, like, with that being said, like, you know, I know, you know, once again, man, shout out to my guy at the Subway. I don't think he's there anymore, but shout out to my guy at the Subway. You know, that was in the whole 6 figures, and like, say, he couldn't get a job. And like I said, people around the way getting killed, you know, doing crazy shit. I'm like, yo, like, I gotta make this shit work. I gotta extract something from the situation. You get what I'm saying? I can't. Yeah, you get what I'm saying, guys? And like, I feel like that's another motivating thing too. Like, if you know you don't have a plan B, you gotta make it work. And like, how that looks, how long it takes, guys, like, that's up for the future to decide. But like, if you're determined to make something happen, like, I mean, that's where, like I said, you got a lot to fuck in. But like, but moving along here, guys, like I said, like, you know, coincidences, you know, everything that I seen as far as, you know, my environment growing up, everything I seen once I got into trade school about, you know, seeing people go into debt, you know, like, everything, I feel like I always kept mental notes, guys. Even if I didn't agree with things, I'm not insinuating for you guys to learn about a bunch of things that doesn't interest you, but sometimes you don't have the option of not learning things. I feel like our brains, like us as human beings, we're very intellectual beings. Like there's a bunch of things you guys are probably seeing now that's probably gonna come back to you in a couple years or a couple months. Oh damn, I remember I did see somebody say this. Or I did hear someone say not to do this. Like, guys, this is real life deal, man. Like, and in regards to the work ethic thing, like, and I touched over that briefly earlier. Like, I mean, my work ethic, it didn't really come from home. Like, my work ethic, and shout out to my uncle from back in the day, man. Like, this is some real deal shit. Speaking of coincidences, I don't think it was meant for me to hear this, but guys, this is some things I heard. Cause like back in the day, this is before, this is back in middle school. Like, I think my uncle had a landscaping company. It used to be him, his kids, and he used to call me and say, hey, like, I need help cutting this yard, XYZ. Like, I pay you $20. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. What I'm doing? I'm at home playing video games at that time. I'm like, yeah, sure. I mean, I'll cut the grass for a couple hours to make a couple bucks. But guys, I remember this like it was yesterday, right? I don't know what we was doing. I know he wasn't talking to me. I was cutting grass, and I think the lawnmower conked out. And like I said, guys, like, I mean, once again, at that time, I was only a victim to what I seen. Like, but I'm definitely grateful for him. Like I said, the game he taught me indirectly, not directly, but like I think he was talking to his son, my cousin, and I don't know what they was talking about, but like the lawnmower conked out. I'm pulling the string trying to get this motherfucker up and going, and he was telling my cousin, his son. I don't know what I think my cousin was mad about something. I don't know what it was, but he told his son, he was like, son, like, always remember, it's a time and place for everything. You never have to feel like you gotta rush things. Like, always remember, regardless of what you're doing, it's always gonna be a time and place for everything. And like, I mean, I heard what he was saying, but I'm like, all right, I mean, what they doing, and that's when the lawnmower started. So I hit my side of the yard, and like, instantly, I'm like, yo, like, he said it's a time and place for everything. What is he talking about? I ain't talked to him about it, because like, I don't want him to think I was eavesdropping or nothing like that. I'm like, he said it's a time and place for everything. And I'm like, all right, like, instantly, like I said, that saying just stuck in the back of my head. I'm like, all right, it's the time and place for everything. And guys, like I said, I say that to say this, right? Years later in trade school, like I said, when I was hit with that dilemma of, HVAC, like, I'm learning all this shit, but it's not applying. I'm like, yo, like, I mean, what am I supposed to do? Like, I don't have a hotline. The school is telling me that, like I said, everything they're teaching me is allegedly is going to work out. I don't have a safety net. I don't have someone I can talk to and say, hey, is everything I'm learning, is this conducive to me, like I said, making this work, or do I need to learn more? And I'm like, yo, like, I remember what Unc said, man. Unc said it's a time and place. Like, maybe this isn't the time for me to cash out. Maybe this is a time for me to learn as much as I can and double down and triple down on the shit that they're telling me. I'm like, you know what? Instead of me leaving at 1 or 2 o'clock, that school at that time was from 8 to 1 or 8 to 2. I'm like, you know what, man, instead of me learning the bare minimum, I'm about to double down on this shit, and like, I'm going to try to learn as much as I can. If I got to stay an hour in the lab, that was 4 days a week. I think Fridays, we didn't have class, but like, if I got to stay an extra hour at the lab, or if the teacher isn't there to let me in the lab, I'm going to go to the supplies. I'm going to always find a way to add more to what the status quo is. And I'm like, you know what, man, maybe the time right now, and once again, perspective, maybe the time right now is not meant for me to look at the end goal. Maybe the time right now is for me to keep my head down, lock the fuck in, and just work, man. Learn as much as I can. Keep learning. And guys, like I said, that one saying, like I said, before that time, and guys, this is the beauty of expertise and, like I said, wisdom. Half the shit I'm telling y'all, I won't remember unless I have something that comes up that triggers that memory. You get what I'm saying? Between that time, between 14 to 15 and the time I was 18, I mean, I was figuring shit out, going through these part-time jobs. But guys, the one moment I was in that I needed some type of wisdom, I always remember what he told my cousin. Like, yo, always remember. I don't know if my cousin, looking on this now, maybe my cousin was bugging out, like I said, trying to force a situation before it was meant to happen. But Unc told him, like, hey, always remember, it's a time and place for everything. And like, I never forget that, because I'm like, yo, like, that's some real life facts there. Like, it's really a time and place for everything. Like, us as human beings, we want instant gratification. We want foresight. We want to know every single thing of what can possibly happen. But sometimes, if it's not meant for us to get the rewards now, maybe it's meant for you to put in the work first. Maybe it's meant for you to put in the work for 2 years, put in the work for 3 years. But eventually, it's not like what you're doing is going to be in vain. But like I said, guys, like, all this, think about what I'm telling you. All this shit was happening in my head all within like the course of like a couple days. When I was thinking about, yo, like, man, I'm learning all this shit in class. Like, they're not really teaching us hands-on. I'm like, what am I supposed to do here? Like, I can double down on the knowledge, but I'm like, I gotta be able to see what they're teaching us, And I'm like, you know, I was very discouraged at that point because I'm like, yo, like, I mean, my satisfaction is actually learning more, but I actually got to apply it too. I don't want to be a book nerd, but like, you know, those sayings, like, there was a bunch of other sayings too, but that one in particular, you know, knowing that there's a time and place for everything, like, I never have to feel like out of place with, you know, whatever is happening. Like, I can always control, I can regulate my thinking, and I can regulate my emotions. Now, like I said, I'm not overplaying my hand. I'm not making matters worse than what it is. And like I said, guys, all this comes with experience. You know, if you have a dad or uncle or a family member that can give you the game early, great. But a lot of people don't learn this until they go through some adversity. And now, like I said, you know, you have to pull wisdom from your experiences. And like I said, that will ultimately make you a better person. But like, guys, like, knowing that, like I said, you know, I'm down there, like I said, young and just trying to figure shit out. You know, it wasn't really no safety net. And I told y'all, like I said, my goal was to learn as much as I can. But that was my motivation by default. Like, I can't be asked out of the situation. Paying back at that time $16,000, knowing I only had like maybe $100 or $50 in my account. I ain't really had no money, but it's just like, guys, like I said, all that, everything, it depends on what you choose to extract from that situation. That's a very scary experience, knowing that, like I said, if this shit doesn't work out, you're fucked. But I never allowed myself to get down to that point. I always applied more pressure onto whatever, like I said, this has something to do with the teachers or what was around me. But like I said, guys, like, once I went into like Super Saiyan mode, and like I said, you know, I found a way to apply more, and I'm like, I stopped looking at time like as an end goal. Like, I'm like, yo, like, fuck it. As long as I'm spending time doing something I love to do, something I know that's going to benefit me down the line, like, I don't care how much I got to spend, or I don't care how much time it takes. Like, it is what it is. And like, guys, I'm telling you, like, fast forward, man, like 2 or 3 years in, I'm like, yo, like, even before the business thing, I already kind of like had people calling me like on the side, like, hey, yo, Drew, you do that? Like, guys, I'm telling you, like, that hyperbolic time chamber shit, that's a real deal fact there, man. But, you know, don't overlook, like I said, the work that went into it. And like, I can't put this into like a simpler explanation in English, but like I said, guys, like, it may sound simple, it may sound, like I said, like I'm leaving parts out, but it was a bunch of work, a bunch of, like I said, bitter shit that went into it. Like I said, days where, you know, I didn't feel like learning about this shit. I'm quizzing myself. I'm still trying to spend another hour or two either in the lab or at the supply. Like, guys, like, you know, all this shit is not going to be something that someone's going to force on you guys. You feel what I'm saying? But I mean, that coincidence aspect, you know, like, you know, and that, I feel like, you know, if you guys are in your 30s like me, like, there's a bunch of sayings that someone probably told you, but until you get in a relative situation, and like I said, this is going to be a negative situation. It's not really just going to be a positive. Once you're facing adversity, you're facing a point where, like I said, failure is going to be you know, it's going to be likely. If you don't handle business, you're going to realize, like, all the things you've been through before. You know, I know it's not going to be your first rodeo. If it is, then, you know, buckle down and learn from it. But like, the more obstacles you conquer, the more, like I said, you know, the more adversity you overcome, you get stronger from it. And like I said, those experiences never leave your head. Even if you forget it, like I forget it. Most of this shit I really don't remember, but if something happens, I can always, it clicks. You get what I'm saying? Like, I don't know why it's like that, but, you know, I'm definitely grateful for all the trials and tribulations and shit that I had to go through, because, guys, I'm telling you, man, like, I mean, like I said, I was telling guys at the gym, man, like, you know, telling people my life story, like, this shit isn't really, I don't feel like what I did is uncommon. Like I said, I just found a way to go against the status quo. Like, the status quo, guys, of where I came from was for me to sit back and, like I said, wait for someone to help me out. I don't know. And like I said, guys, now it may be easier because you got more outlets and shit like that, but I don't even think it's easier now. Like, the concept is still the same. Like, even if I had rich parents, even if I knew, like, guys, I don't think that shit even matter. And like, I'm like, the thing that, looking back on this now, guys, like, the status quo of, like, say, how you should be or how you should think, most of that shit is just all contradictive. Like, and that reminds me of politics so much, where you got people that act like they perfect, and behind closed doors, you don't even know what the fuck they doing. They could be, like I said, doing X, Y, Z. But like, I mean, in regards to, like I said, the status quo, like, everybody has their own life, their own journey. And I'm saying, not for kids, I'm saying for you guys that's in your, you know, this is my demographic for the guys to watch my channel. Like, for you guys that's in your mid-20s to mid to late 30s, like, I mean, we're all in the same boat. You know, by now you should have your adversities, shit that you know you got to get better at. But the point is, like, you either got it's binary. You got two options. Either you stay the same and, you know, you let your insecurities eat you up, or you gotta, like I said, put your boots on and you gotta get to work and change shit. But like, I'm saying, like I said, I'm saying that to say this, guys, like, I feel like the answers is already out here for everybody to fix their life. But will everybody do it? You know, I don't think that's my you know, that's up to them. That's not up to me. But like I said, you know, and of course everybody is opinionated. You know, you're gonna have people that's gonna have opinions everybody got more opinions about everybody else's life versus their own. That's why, I always say, like I said, everybody got opinions, but you got to commune the source. Like, I feel like, if somebody's talking out the side of their head, you can't really feel some type of way about it. First, you gotta look at the person that's talking. Pull up their curtains. Like, if they're saying shit about X, Y, Z, I mean, once again, guys, opinions don't need to be validated for someone to talk online. So it's like, that's why, like, with the day and age you live in, this is almost like we're living in two different worlds. But like, the coincidences, the random shit that's happening right now, I don't think it'll be fine for you to, like I said, ignore it. I'm not saying try to over exaggerate what you're hearing and what you're seeing. But like I said, guys, as you get older, I'm saying once you leave your 20s and you get into your 30s is the magic year, man. Like, I don't care what nobody say. Like I said, like, everybody has, and like, I'm not trying to turn this back into the topic I left with the thinking of your early 20s or the thinking of your 20s, but everybody has an ideal or maybe a few ideals of how they thought the world worked when they were 20. And like I said, until they lived long enough to realize the world doesn't work like that. Like, nobody really gives a shit about how you feel or how you think. But like I said, but you got to realize, like I said, like, it's always going to be two worlds. Like, that's something I got exposed to in my 20s. I'm like, yo, like, the shit I'm doing now, like, it's really taboo because people think that, like, I'm like, yo, like, I came from the same bullshit environment y'all came from, but it's like, I chose not to accept my circumstances. And guys, this is some real deal shit. Like, I'm telling y'all, like, and I'm talking to y'all like I know this shit is normal. Like, I know there's people out there and maybe they're not going to get on camera and talk about it, but I know there's people out there that's beating the status quo in the hood. Like, the hood, when I say the hood, the inner cities is a breeding ground for talent. But guys, most people, I'm saying men and women, they can't escape their environment because that environment is always going to put you in a negative mindset. Like, for one, people not going to like you because of this adversity. But guys, everything that's needed for you to survive is already existing in your life. Like, those negative traits I just mentioned, dealing with adversity, I seen that shit growing up. I seen dudes, like I said, shoot out, just because, like I say, a dude felt disrespected, now they pulling guns out. Guys, I seen, like I said, what happens when you can't handle your emotions. I see, like, everything I'm telling you is life lessons. But like I said, I already seen this, and I know y'all seen this. It doesn't have to be in the hood. It can be anywhere. But like, y'all already seen enough fucked up situations to know what not to do. But like, ultimately, guys, like, you can't. No one's gonna, like I said, give you a pat on the back for what you've been through unless you do something with that information. You get what I'm saying? And that's the shit I can't wrap my head around. Like, people that's like 25, 30 now, I don't care where you came from. Assuming you came from a situation you don't want to go back to. I mean, shit, put your and I say 5 to 10 years generously, put your time in to self-develop yourself, man. Kill those bad habits of, like I said, thinking negative and, like I said, like, thinking that the world owes you some type of favor just because you had a hard life. I'm telling you, the world is fucked up. And I'm not saying that to, like I said, I'm not saying that just because where I'm at now, but like, everybody goes through some fucked up shit. But it's just like, I learned that at an early age, like as a 17-year-old boy. Like, if you don't know what the fuck you want to do, I mean, you gotta, like I said, sometimes you gotta try a bunch of things. I'm saying, like, career-wise, you gotta try some things. But like I said, eventually, now it's a lot more easier for you to get information in regards to people that's already doing what you want to do. But like, I mean, the biggest thing is, like I say, you commit to something long term. I mean, it's going to take care of you down the line. But it's just like, I mean, if I would have took the opposite approach, man, of where I was 17, right before I got into that trade school, I knew I wouldn't be able to do the things I did, a year prior. I'm saying, like, 17, 18. Once I got fired from those 2 part-time jobs, I took a couple months off, and I started looking into trade schools. I'm like, yo, like, what are my options out here? Like, I know I don't want to go back to doing this shit. Like, what are my options? And like, like, this is just me dolo. Like, I didn't have, like, say, any mentors, any relatives. I'm like, yo, like, fuck it. Like, what I got to do here? Because this ain't, I'm not doing another job without some type of, extensive education. Like, I got to do something past, like, what I know. And I'm like, you know what? The trade schools might be an option, but now let me look into some options for trade schools. And like, eventually, once again, you got to be honest with yourself. Like, but I couldn't get to that mentality of thinking if I was steady trying to blame someone. Yeah, like, my parents should have made $1 million a year. They should have took care of me. Like, guys, I'm telling you, that shit works for kids, but once you get past 17 or 18 years old, they're gonna call you a bum. They're gonna call you a bum. God, like I said, I'm telling you, like, I mean, I guys, I'm telling you, I've been through this. I already lived through this shit, but this cycle is never going to stop. But like, no one's going to really get you out of that cycle. You have to, that fight has to come from already in you. Like, once you're sick of the environment you in and the way, like, and how things are, if you don't have the internal intestinal fortitude to, like, change your circumstance, and once again, you may get ridiculed, and like, that's the, that's just the hypocrisy of, like I said, like the inner city hoods. Like, I mean, they already know where you came from, but once you choose something different for yourself, now you probably gonna get looked at crazy like an outcast. Like, yeah, like, I know that such and such don't come back to the hood no more. I mean, you damn right such and such ain't gonna come back, because for what? Like, I mean, but just because he or she chooses to better himself, like, once again, like I said, once you change your mindset, you got to change your environment. You can't be in that same environment, like, with a new mindset, because eventually, it's going to corrode. Like, a bad environment is going to corrode a good mind. I don't care what anybody says. Like, I don't know any brilliant thinkers that stay in the bad environment. I'm not going to say a poverty environment. Remember, like, a bad environment doesn't have anything to do with financially, but if you're around negative people, like I said, people that's encourage you to do stupid shit that it's not beneficial to your future, I mean, look at what's going to happen to you. Like I say, you may start off positive now, but within a couple months, once people keep encouraging you to wait until next year, oh, you don't really need that, now you look up 10 years down the line, gone. Now, like I said, guys, like, who wants to go through that? And that shit is happening every day, guys, I'm telling you, man. But that's how I say that to say this, man. Like, I feel like coincidences are tied to a definite purpose, but that definite purpose is tied to, like, living life and figuring it out. Like, I mean, no one I mean, some people may know what they want to do, like, said at 5 years old, but, like, guys, like I said, the beauty of life is figuring shit out. Crashing and burning, crashing and burning, crashing and burning. And like I said, eventually you're going to know, hey, all right, we'll tell you what, in order for me to go through this, I got to sacrifice this. But before I sacrifice this, I got to switch up this. Like, guys, that's everything I'm telling you. This is throughout the course of years. You got to figure shit out. But, like, there's no finished product to none of this shit, because, like, as soon as you feel like you got things figured out, something could change, and then now you're back to the readjustment period. You feel what I'm saying? But, like, I'm saying, like, I mean, I feel like coincidences are definitely tied to a greater purpose. Like, and I mean, once again, I say that to say this. Like, I don't feel like us as human beings, like, we're very limited. Like, we're very intellectual creatures. That's the biggest difference between us and animals, is that we have a conscious mind. Like, we're way more smarter. Like, we're not, and I mean, once again, the vices, that's what makes us primates. But the point is, like, we have a subconscious mind that should control our vices. Like, you have something in your mind that's telling you, like, yo, like, or you should have something in your mind that's telling you, like, yo, if I drink or smoke or gamble or do some crazy shit, this could put me in a worse situation than where I'm at. Animals don't have that internal instinct. You get what I'm saying? But I say that to say this, guys, like, us as human beings, since we have that intellectual mind, that does make us, the top species of the planet. But I feel like, with that being said, there's limitations to us being humans. Like, we're not godly creatures. What I mean by that, guys, is, like, I don't think everything we see, I don't think it's meant for us to understand at certain points in time. And I mentioned this in previous videos, guys. Like, us as human beings, and like, and not to go into the rabbit hole about this, guys. Deep sea, deep space, like, beginning of time, guys. If you ask a scientist, they could allegedly tell you what's at the bottom of the sea, what's a million galaxies away. Guys, you can believe that shit if you want to. All I'm saying is this: everything that exists has physical proof, but once again, 30, 40 years ago, this is the living proof to what I'm saying. 30 to 40 years ago, maybe, like, for you guys that grew up in that generation, I think they said by the year 2000, we was going to have flying cars. I mean, having lofty expectations is one thing, but guys, there's a bunch of technology that we have now that people didn't think would exist years prior. I'm talking like 30, 40 years ago. So, like, we don't know in 40 years, like, we don't know what they're testing right now in closed labs. Like I said, Area 51 or whatever case is, it could be something that they're working on now that could improve technology that can get us further in space in 30 years. So, like, I'm very careful to say, like, I do have optimism that human beings will evolve. I'm not saying past, I feel like life is still going to be the same. Like, but all I'm saying is, like, the deep sea and deep space travel, technology is only going to get better. I don't think technology is going to take a step back. But, I mean, the AI shit, like, it is what it is. I mean, I'm only interested in, like I said, exploring the planet more and seeing what else is out there. Like, hopefully, before our lifetime is over. But, like, I mean, judging in 30 and 40 year increments. I mean, like I said, before we was born, like, the internet wasn't even out. But now, since the internet is here, I mean, there's a lot more tools and there's a lot more, assistance that we have as human beings that can get us answers. But still, like, I mean, with this, guys, I'm telling you like this, like, human beings are, I'm saying, at current technology, we're limited. But, like, in regards to, like I said, just the coincidences, random things will happen. even if you don't agree with it, like even if you don't understand it. But like I said, guys, like wisdom always comes in handy in hindsight. Like, you can try your best to understand everything. You can try your best to get as much knowledge as you can. But guys, unless you have real life practicality, I can read 1,000 books right now. I can read 1,000 sayings, but unless you've been through something that made those sayings and those books valuable, how much of that stuff is really going to stick? And like, that's something, once again, I mean, I'm giving you guys some gems of what I'm about to give and what I'm about to explain in that 30-year-old chapter I'm about to go into. But like, I mean, like I said, I'm saying for me, when I was 20 years old, like, I thought I had things figured out based on like how I was living. I'm like, yo, like, I already know there's going to be have and have nots. I already know, there's a real world that persists of you grinding. Like I said, you taking the short end of the stick, you being the person that's looked over. Most of all that, like I said, most of the benefits of taking the short end of the stick, that's gonna benefit you down the line. Like by you sacrificing, by you not caring about the money, not caring about the time. 5 to 10 years later, these are the people that's winning. And then you know what they're going to tell you 5 to 10 years ago? You know what I did 5, 10 years ago? 5, 10 years ago? Like I said, I took on education, I took on this, but like I said, I didn't expect the benefits up front. I just wanted to be around to learn. The same shit I did, but like I said, I feel like my story, you can put that in any other education or any other workforce. And like I said, it's still going to be the same shit. So like, I mean, I say that to say this, guys, like my story isn't like that unique. I mean, like I say, anybody ask me about it, I'll tell them like, I did what I had to do, but like I didn't say like, you know what, man, I had a choice of going to law school, or I had a choice of joining XYZ company, but I chose it now. Like, and you'll be surprised at how much good can come out of negative situations. And like, I don't know why life is like that. I think that's the way it's meant to be. There's gonna be a lot more negative things that happen out there versus good things, but you can always turn a bad into a good. You can turn a good into a bad by not understanding how that good thing happened to begin with, But guys, like I said, I can go on for hours about this shit. I just wanted to jump on here and like I said, talk to y'all just about like I said, coincidences, just random shit, man, that's happening out here. And like I said, I'm not saying everything that's happening is meant for you to understand. Like that's the thing, you don't want to get paralysis by analysis or just start to overanalyze shit and like start making things, more than what it really is. But like, once you stay on your journey and you find a way to like cut the noise out, the world is always going to be a loud place. It was like that when we was born. It's going to be like that when we die. Once you cut the noise out and focus on, I need to do ABC. If I do ABC every day, focus on my mental regulation and emotional control, and like I said, I stay disciplined, stay locked in. Everything else, it is what it is. Like, even if I agree with it or not, I don't really care. Like shit. I mean, somebody want to jump off a cliff. I mean, shit. It is what it is. You get what I'm saying? And God, it took me a while to get to this level of thinking. Like I'm telling you, like. Before, I used to be on some saved world type shit, but now look, I mean, if someone has to go through something for them to learn, why should I stop you? If you got to learn, that's your journey, my man. You got to go through it. But it's just like, I'm saying, guys, like, I mean, 30s is definitely a golden age, but I feel like everything I'm doing now is going to lead to the next 10 to 15 plus years being way more peaceful than it was in my 20s. Because like 20s, man, those are your Rambo years, man. You figuring shit out. Of course, some things you feel like you got figured out, but like I said, guys, you got to keep living. And like I said, there's, as soon as you feel like you got things figured out, that's the crazy thing about life. I learned that from going to the gym. As soon as you feel like you got the perfect routine, your elbow, something may go off, and then now you got to reevaluate everything. So it's like you never really stay in perfect sync for too long before you got to make adjustments. You feel what I'm saying? But let me look at these comments here. Let's see here. Yeah, these guys be talking some bullshit in these comments. That's why most of the time I do not be responding to them. Spider-Man, what type of work you do? HVAC. Yeah, Spider-Man. I mean, I definitely been through kind of like a bunch of crazy things. But like I said, like, like I mentioned earlier, like I said, this every good thing that happens, I feel like there's a negative connotation to it. Like, every good decision I made, it could have been easier for me to just sit back and like blame everybody, but like that's not my MO. Once again, I mentioned this before, like I said, no matter how long it takes to change things, once you dialed in, it's only a matter of time before, things go your way. But like, and like I said, for you guys that don't understand that, once you hit adversity past a certain point, human beings exist to, like I said, evolve. But like part of evolving is making sure, like I said, you can get past adversity, you know, like not. And like I said, this isn't specific to a race or gender. It's for everybody. To excel past a certain point, there's some things you need to learn at a bare minimum. And like being disciplined, there's not. And I wish this was this simple, guys. I wish, you know, you only got to be disciplined once, and like that would be enough. But like, nah, guys, there's different levels to discipline. I learned that strictly from, like I said, you know, losing weight. The things I did to go from 400 to 350, it doesn't work going from 350 to 330. And I think this morning I'm down to 324. But like, guys, like going from, like I said, 350 to 330, there was a lot more things I had to cut out because, like, starting off, you got your novice progress. Like I said, just by going to the gym, you're gonna lose a couple pounds, but eventually those novice, call it novice gains or novice losses, eventually that beginner progress is going to fade away. And now it's like, all right, I'm still grinding, or at least I think I'm still grinding. What more do I have to do? That's where, you being instinctive as a human being, like, you figure shit out, and stop assuming that people's always going to agree with you. They're going to understand what you're saying. Fuck that. At the end of the day, like shit, assuming most of you guys are in your 30s, like, you're only guaranteed 50 at most, if not 60 years of life. Like, you got to make the rest of your time peaceful and make sure you're doing things that make you happy. Because, like, if you're stuck in a world full of bullshit, and like I said, that's why, like, most of the stuff, I'm saying, like, the hoopla and, like, the gossip, I'm not really a gossiping type of guy. Like, everything I'm telling y'all is, like, something I already lived through and things I'm going through now. But, like, I feel like a lot of people don't grasp this concept until they get locked up in jail or something happens to them to a point where now they, like, I'm like, why does it take, and this is some real deal shit, it takes a lot of people losing something to know that it's important. I don't get that, guys. Like, and maybe, like I said, maybe they're scared of what people say or what they think, but, like, I don't have that issue of, like, worrying about people's opinions. Like, I don't really get how that works long term. Maybe growing up, if you didn't have someone tell you to believe in yourself growing up, in your early 20s, maybe it affects you, but, like, past a certain age, it's just like, yo, this is all peace and happiness. Like, I mean, but how it looks for me may be different than how it looks for you guys. But you gotta take control of your life. And like I said, once you start taking control of your life, I mean, you can't really lose. But, like, once again, for some people to win, a lot of people gonna lose. So, like, and not saying they losing for the wrong reasons. Like, you figure shit out, but you're gonna have to learn from, like I said, what didn't go right in your life. Because if everything went right all the time, it won't be a need to want to improve or change things. So, like, but guys, like I said, with that being said, I got topics for days I can go over, but I'm about to get up out of here. I just want to talk with y'all about these coincidences, but be on the lookout. Like I said, I know next week is going to rain a little bit, but like I mentioned earlier, guys, I know the weather is going to heat up. I mean, when I say heat up, guys, like 40 degrees to me is warm. I don't know. It's hard to explain. I mean, for you guys who've been in the trade, you guys already know. If it's real hot or real cold, you're still going to be out there working, but, like, under 30 degrees is cold to me when it gets in the 20s. But, like, once it gets above freezing, like, I want to say, like, in the 40s, I mean, that's not hot, but it's not cold to me. It's like, it's chill. But, like, I think tomorrow is Saturday, right? I think tomorrow is supposed to be in the 50s, like 55. I mean, that's damn near summertime to me. So, but guys, I got to roll. I want you guys, like I said, work on your productivity. You guys know how it go. And make sure you guys are rewatching all these GMC talks, because everything I'm telling y'all, I mean, if you apply at least like half of it, that's automatically going to put you in a better position. And like I said, that's the name of the game, man. Y'all got to win up in the head. I don't care how much money y'all got, or, like I said, what the goal is, but, like, if you can't win the internal battle in your head, like I said, you fucked. And a lot of people, if you don't know that, you're probably going to be in some type of legal drama, or you're going to be in some type of, like, say, you're going to then they lose your freedom to understand. Like I said, if you stay in control of your mind, it really doesn't matter what people say or what they think. But, like, I mean, like I said, I'm saying this as a grown man. I wasn't equipped to understand this at an early age. But, like I said, guys, the older you get, you seek wisdom, you seek perspective, and, like I said, you apply it to your own life, and, like, you don't really lose. But once again, will everybody understand what I just said? No, but that's not my problem. I'm going to live out the rest of my years in peace and happiness. And y'all already know, like I said, keep rocking and rolling. But I got to get up out of here. Peace out. I'll see you guys on